genre.
Welcome back to the Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who, The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Nick Jimenez.
I'm Scott Corelli.
And I'm Cass Fredrickson.
Today on the show, we'll be discussing The Girl Who Never Was, the 8th Doctor's 13th story, and chronologically speaking, his final big finish episode with Charley Pollard.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, we skipped a bunch of stuff. And I'm gonna go through and talk about what we skipped a little bit. But before we do, The Girl Who Never Was written by Alan Barnes, directed by Barnaby Edwards. This was released in December of 2007. So by the time this came out, we had 3 seasons of New Who at this point.
Whoa.
And that is definitely like part of the whole story of the Divergent Universe and like metatextually, like what we're going to be talking about, and the reason why they ended the Charley Pollard stuff here rather than continuing it, because they felt they needed a fresh start to coax new listeners over to Big Finish. But I'm curious from the two of you, having jumped from, I believe, Scherzo to this story, skipping about, I want to say about a dozen stories, I think, from Scherzo to this one. How did you guys feel about this one? Did it feel like you had missed a lot, or just like a little something? And that's about it. I'm curious, like, how this did for you, just as a listen for people, for you skipping all these stories, and also, I guess, as like Charley's farewell story with the 8th Doctor. I'll start with you, Nick, because I know you love Charley. So what were your thoughts?
I did before I saw in print that how you spell her name.
Oh.
I don't get how that happens, because like Charley is a nickname for Charlotte. And so,
Right.
So listeners, apparently it's been spelled Charley this whole time.
Yes, it has.
And I'm like, how the hell does that happen?
Who are you?
Who
A
are
choice.
you? But no, in all seriousness, well, to answer your first question, I felt very minimally displaced or confused. Actually, it was like not until the supplemental material provided in the file that we listened to that it dawned on me that we had missed it. And you warned us about it off mic, that I was like, oh, that's right. This is like where we skipped a bunch, because, the episode opens with Charley being like, fuck you, I'm out, you're weird and manipulative. And I was like, oh yeah, Scherzo for sure. Like,
Right. Okay, great.
I wouldn't want to hang out with him anymore after listening to Scherzo either. With that being said, yeah, no, I think our last couple of big finishes with Charlotte and 8 have been really kind of psychedelic and unsettling and conceptual. So this in many ways felt like a nice back to basics blockbuster romp that I had fun. I had fun listening to it. I thought it was a satisfying conclusion of sorts for Charlotte Pollard. I know it's not really the end of her, at least from my understanding, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But yeah, good fun. We'll get into spoilers. The Cybermen are in this, and played by Nicholas Briggs. And we'll talk about my opinions on how they communicate the Cybermen in this Big Finish audio. But yeah, I thought it was a romp. I thought it was pretty entertaining.
Cass, feelings?
I also didn't feel like I was missing a whole lot. Like there was a lot. Like it felt like I would understand why she would be like, yeah, no, I'm out. And like there was enough to kind of piece together that like, oh, like one of their friends like died, and that's terrible and traumatic, and like we know that the Doctor, this iteration of the Doctor is like not capable of like emoting enough for Charlie, I guess, like that's not the way that he kind of operates. So like it felt like a natural break for them. Honestly, I had more questions about what happens in this story than I did like anything we skipped. So I think that for people who are like following along at home, like it works. Like you just have to know that like, oh yeah, they went on a bunch of stuff. They picked up another companion. The companion died.
R.I.P. Carrots.
Yeah.
Chariz. But what were your thoughts on this as like a final Charley Pollard story? It seems like it was a little confusing for you.
Yeah, no, I was not satisfied with this at all.
Yeah.
We'll get into it, but
yeah.
I don't think I understood it.
Yeah, as a end to her Eighth Doctor tenure, I don't find it particularly satisfying either. It almost feels like it's going to be satisfying, and then they pull the rug out from under you, with a particular character reveal, and you're like, oh wait, so then why did we do any of this? And yeah, but luckily, I think Charlie gets her day in the sun in the future, in some stories that we will be covering quite a bit down the line. But it's hinted at in the post-credit scene here, about where she's going after this. And we'll definitely be talking about those. And I think that those feel like Big Finish being like, yeah, I think we kind of whiffed it. We should probably give her another shot at like kind of wrapping her storyline up in a more satisfying way. And I think they do a much better job when she comes back. But those are not with the Eighth Doctor. But we'll get to that. But yeah, I definitely agree. I agree with both of you. I agree that this is an entertaining romp that feels like an old school Big Finish story and has some characters that I just like listening to. I like their voices in my ears, and there's like a lot of, there's a lot of jokes about it in the story itself, but I was getting Titanic vibes listening to this, just in the way that like characters were talking to each other, and the little patter was like very like James Cameron inspired stuff, and I really liked the musicality of the dialogue a lot. But then I also agree with Cass that it's a very dissatisfying ending for Charlie, and it's like weird that it can be an entertaining story, but also when you get to the end being like, eh. And that's kind of how I feel about this. But it's good to know that I made the right choice in skipping all of the Divergent stuff, because it seems to have not bothered either of you in any way, which is great, and feels I feel very justified in skipping it, because man, 12 stories of slop. I got to be honest. Yeah. So let's talk.
So Karis is the like weird killer soldier guy that you told us about a few weeks ago, months ago. Really.
Indeed. And they meet him in the following story after Scherzo. Karis is a he is a Divergent Universe alien called a Uter Mason, and he is raised by the Church of the Foundation to believe that people who don't believe the way that they believe can be killed by them. If they murder them, then they absorb their souls and therefore save them. In the way that, like, getting somebody to believe in Jesus means that you've saved them.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of doing that, you just kill them, and then that saves them. And so he has a bunch of souls inside this thing called what is this thing called? An absolver, of course. And it holds all of the souls of the people that he's killed, because of his religious beliefs.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So does he do that throughout his tenure as a companion? He'll just like kill someone.
He almost
and
does.
Be like, carrots.
Yeah, he almost does a bunch of times. But they always tend to stop him. But except for this one time where he actually so when they meet him, he's actually married. There's this whole thing that's going on where okay, the Divergent Universe, as we talked about, was Agreus.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically created because Rassilon was like, these fuckers are gonna out evolve me and kill me, so and take over the Time Lords, so I gotta punt them to another universe so they can't touch us. And so in the Divergent Universe, there's all of these like experiments going on where like there's these different zones, and they're going to these different zones, and there are experiments going on by like Rassilon and this other species that is where Chris comes from. And they're all like
Hearts.
It's very Kingdom Hearts. It's honestly, it's extremely Kingdom Hearts. Only it's not fun because it's not any properties that you recognize.
Sure.
So there's all these experiments going on, and that's what all of the different stories set in the Divergent Universe are like them visiting these species that are in the midst of being experimented on, and they are all being experimented on because they're trying to Rassilon is trying to find trying to evolve a species that can destroy the Divergence, because he doesn't want competition, and he wants to be able to go back to the other universe without having to worry about the Divergence like breaking out of their universe and killing him and all the Time Lords. So he's trying to find a way to evolve all of these people. That's what Scherzo is. That thing that was like evolving.
Mm-hmm.
That was like one of those experiments. So he meets they meet Chris, and he's married, but they're being experimented on by people. And which is going to like turn them into Chromon kings and queens. They're basically like they have to like drink an elixir, and it's going to like turn them into these kings and queens or something. Anyway, he drinks the elixir and it rejects him, and they're like, okay, cool, we can kill this one. And he needs to like save his wife, and she's already drinking the elixir, and she's starting to turn into like one of these kings or queens, and she's like, kill me. And he was like, yes, of course I will. And then like murders her, takes her soul, and then it's like, I feel really bad about doing that. And the doctor's like, that's because killing is wrong, you fucking idiot.
Well, why does he take her soul? I thought you only killed, I thought you only go in the absolver if you've been absolved. It kind of sounds like he just murdered her. Like, or mercy killed her.
Right. He basically put her out of her misery, but he thinks that like, well, he's going to absolve her of like taking the elixir, I guess. And so
Okay.
she'll stay Leda, his wife, if like, she's in the absolver.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so one thing leads to another. There's these Dreamweaver guys And we get this episode, this story that is basically like Zagreus 2, if you can believe it. And the three lead characters, after traveling through the Divergent Universe, are trapped in three separate dream realms designed by what's his face? Rassilon. Thank you. I kept wanting to say Ragnarok. By Rassilon, and these inside these dreams, you have the Doctor. He's reunited with the actress who played Grace from the TV movie.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but she plays a character called Perfection, and is basically like coaxing him into a world where he's the Doctor again, or something like that, where it's like kind of like a generic version of stuff, but he's like trapped on a beach. It's weird. And then
also very
Shocker
Kingdom Hearts.
as a sequel to Shocker as a sequel to Zagreus. That's weird. And then Kariz is like trying to like, he's like freaking out about his guilt for like all the people that he's killed, and so then he kills himself to try to absolve himself. There's like a mirror version of him that he drowns, and to like in hopes of like absolving himself or something. And then I don't know, Charlie goes through something too that isn't super important.
Great.
And then you find out that the thing from Scherzo has fully evolved and has actually eaten almost the entire Divergent Universe. And everyone that we've met over the course of all of these stories are all dead, and absorbed by the thing from Scherzo. And Rassilon is like, cool. Like I got the gate open. We're going to go home. Last thing that I need to get rid of is the Doctor. So like when he set up these dreams, he was basically trapping the Doctor in one while trying to convince Charlie and Kariz to like kill the Doctor. Be like, yeah, you have to do this. So of course he doesn't convince Charlie to do this, but Kariz is like, on the edge of like killing folk all the time.
On a dime,
so he's
yeah.
like, hell yeah. Because Rassilon's like, you're going to be reunited with your wife, and I got you, boo. And so Kariz is like gonna kill, and then he's like, actually, no, I'm not. That's not the first or the last time he'll do that. Which is like, I'm totally gonna kill you too. Actually, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to. And there's nothing happens to change his mind. He just does.
Decides.
He just decides. Actually, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Chris sucks. Like, he's really boring. He's really like flat. He's like if a Vulcan wasn't interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. He's terrible.
Like a Vulcan, the worst. He sounds like the worst parts of a Vulcan and a Klingon.
And a Romulan. Yeah. Like all the worst parts of those three things in one character. Yeah, it's the worst.
Wow.
And I guess like maybe like a cult member or something. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, one thing leads to another. They get through the gate, and Rassilon is defeated, and blah blah blah. Divergent Universe no more. We're back into End Space, and which is the regular universe. Through all of this, like during everything that happens with Rassilon and Kariz and almost betraying them and all that stuff, Charlie learns about. So this whole time, Charlie didn't know what Kariz's deal was, that he'd killed a bunch of people. So she finds out in this story when he betrays them, and she's like, wait, do you kind of suck? I don't know if I can trust you. And so like, that's what the rest of like his travels in our universe are Charlie just being like, I don't know if I can trust this guy. He killed a bunch of people, including his wife. That's pretty fucked up.
How did that not come up for like 12 episodes?
Like 6 episodes, because the next 6 are now in regular
okay.
universe. But yeah, like it didn't come up. He kept it a secret somehow. So anyway, they're in regular space now. They go on a few adventures with him. There's an episode that if there was any episode in this entire batch of episodes that I would have had us listen to, it would have been Memory Lane, because it is a very good story. But it would have required just as much of even more of an explanation of like who he was. And I would have had to explain it before we started, or you would have gotten nothing out of it. But, Memory Lane, like this thing is like creating all of your wants and desires so that it like traps you and like feeds off your energy or whatever. And so it's creating all of these like wants and desires for the Doctor and for Charlie. And it's ignoring Chris for a long time. And then finally, when it takes in Chris, it's giving him all of his wants and desires, as well as all the souls that he's holding inside of his body.
Whoa.
And it overloads and like explodes or whatever.
Yeah. Get wrecked.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah, which was it's pretty good. It's a pretty good, fun, silly story that like goes to a dark place at the end, which is good. The cover has an astronaut with an ice cream cone on it.
Very Douglas Adams.
Yes, very. So Big Finish decides to end the Divergent Universe when it does in a rush because the show was coming back. And they were nervous about like if people were like, "Oh, what are these audio things that are going on?" And they're like, "Divergent Universe, what is?" I'm never listening to any of these ever again. So they're like, we have to like at least end this and get them into like a regular universe. So they quickly wrap that up with that storyline, and now we're back in End Space. But then they also start to realize like, oh, our numbers aren't going up. I don't think they're actually going down, and I think it's because this is structured like classic Who instead of new Who. So we need to wrap up all of this. We need to wrap up Charlie. We need to wrap up Cariz. We gotta just like close the book on this whole era for the Eighth Doctor and reboot it with a new companion into like 45-minute episodes, because that's what I think people want right now.
That's what the kids are clamoring for.
That's what they're clamoring for. So we get the final Cariz story, in which I'm going to do my best to explain this, but they go to a planet that is basically hell. While there, it's forcing Chris to like evolve somehow. He turns into a demon, is convinced he needs to kill the Doctor and Charlie, and then decides not to. And because it has something to do with like he starts evolving because because they're in this hell planet, the souls get sucked out of him, and because he's free of the souls, he's like able to turn into a demon or something. And then when after he just changes his mind about killing them, instead he like sucks the souls back up again, and then that turns him back into regular Cariz, and then he dies. So he like sacrifices himself to save them from him, I think. It's very convoluted. It's largely believed to be the worst Big Finish story in the history of Big Finish, because it's like really forced, and I guess like all of the dialogue is really bad, and I remember listening to it and just like my eyes glazing over, like years ago, like a decade ago when I listened to it. But yeah, anyway, he's dead. And that's basically what happens is like they go back to the TARDIS, and Charlie's like, I can't believe it. I can't believe Cariz is dead and that he sacrificed himself to save us. And the Doctor is literally like, yes, very sad. Anyway, let's go on our next adventure. And Charlie's like, whoa, what the fuck? He's like, hey, look, people die. They leave.
People die
this
every
is
day
what I'm 900 years old. This is old hat to me. Like, I'm just moving on with my life because, like, I mean, come on. and Charlie's like, no, fuck you. I'm out of here. And then that's how we end up where we are at the beginning of this story. So, after hearing all of that, do you think you missed much from the Divergent Universe?
Honestly, I think that takes away from like where she's at emotionally, because if she spends 6 stories being like, I don't know, this guy's pretty sus, he killed people, I don't know if I can trust him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's horrific, but like also
Yeah.
Too late.
Yes, he tried to kill us again, but at the last minute he sacrificed himself to save us, so he must have been a pretty good guy. He just wanted to be reunited with his dead wife that he killed. Great.
And
He
soul
turned out
bucket.
to be a pretty good guy. Yeah.
his soul bucket.
His soul bucket. Yeah. Look, also his soul bucket like opened because Charlie accidentally like drops it or something like that. Like,
No!
like literally, like she's like, "Whoa, what's this? Whoa!" And then like the souls get out and go to
What?
hell, and he's
Oh
like,
my-
They all
"We have to go to hell to like get them," and then he like starts evolving. Yeah, so stupid.
I'm honestly just kind of like, I guess much like Charlie towards Chariz, I can't get over that you've had all these adventures. So you've listened to all of these
Mhm.
years ago and had all of this knowledge that you've now like purged Rings of Akaten style in front of us, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
What other secrets do you hold?
All of the Lucy Miller stuff, I guess.
Okay.
But we're going to be listening to that.
Oh man. But I agree with Cass though. I think it does kind of now it kind of retroactively undermines where she's at, because like before
Yeah.
I was like minutes ago I was like, yeah, fuck 8. 8's so aloof and weird. Ugh.
Mhm.
Go. I love Charlie. Now it's like, I don't know. I think it kind of had a point. I'd be kind of over that guy pretty quickly as well.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just like a very un-Doctor Who character too. It's like if like Chariz is like a character that like if Zack Snyder was given control of Doctor Who, this is like he's the kind of companion Zack Snyder would be like, this guy rips. And you know what? He's ripped. You're also going to see his abs all the time. And he kills people, but it's his religious belief, so it's okay. It's okay that he's this much of a badass. It's fine.
And he's not, he doesn't even sound like he's like Drax or, you know what I mean? He
No.
sounds very serious and you're supposed to always take him seriously and he's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. You are. Charlie takes the piss out of him every once in a while, you know, because that's just Charlie's like mode. But like in general, it never works. They don't have any chemistry. Like it's a real, I don't know, man. It's just, it doesn't, it's like a real like square peg in a round hole kind of character, at that point. And it's infuriating that, Chariz is one of the characters that the Eighth Doctor says out loud in Night of the Doctor, therefore making him canon.
Yeah, I don't, because at the end of the story there were like ads for, you know, like other Big Finish blah blah blah, and like so I listened to the one for the story that you just talked about, like the last Chris story, and it sounded like the most edgelord thing for the sake of being like an edgelord. And it was like, I don't know, the ad was like a minute and I'm just like, oh, this sounds unpleasant. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. All of the characters that live on the Hell planet that are like manipulating Chris into turning into this demon, to like evolve into this demon, they all talk like they're in Paradise Lost. And so it's just like, it's really pretentious, but in like a, like, you guys are too stupid to be writing Paradise Lost, you know, like you're not doing this well. It's infuriating. Yeah.
Is, by your estimate, Scott, is now that he is canon because of Night of the Doctor, which I really need to watch again now that I've kind of, just to hear, I don't know, I guess now to hear him say, does he say Charlie or Charlotte?
He says Charlie.
Charley Pollard.
And Lucy. Charlie,
Lucy.
Chris, Lucy.
And Chariz. and the Australian Captain Didgeridoo, or whatever his name was.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Do you think is Chariz, by your estimate, the worst companion in all of Who?
Oh. No.
Wow.
Well, no. Well, I think he might be, just because he's such an antithesis to everything Doctor Who should be. And that really bothers me. I think he just doesn't belong in this world, even as like a one-off character, let alone a companion. Which is frustrating.
Is he worse than Chameleon?
I mean, Chameleon's pretty bad. But Chameleon I don't count as a companion. So
Okay.
Because he's just a robot. It's like calling K9 a companion. You
Whoa.
know, like I don't.
K9 is a companion.
He's not. He's a robot. He's a robot on the ship. Like
K9.
he's
a toaster.
If he's a companion, the sonic screwdriver is a companion.
Well, now we know where we can guess where Scott falls on the New Republic archives. Are droids beings argument?
Not in Doctor Who, they're not.
Fair enough.
They have to have personality, I think.
They don't have a deity,
and they have to like be able to do things on their own. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about the girl who never was. So this story, as we alluded to, Charley leaves the TARDIS, and she thinks she's being dropped off in Singapore in 1930 on New Year's Eve. But in fact, it's 2008 because the TARDIS like wouldn't let them land in 1930. And she meets up with a guy called Byron. And this guy is like flirting with her, even though I think he thinks that it's the young version of his mom, which is weird. But anyway, yeah, he flirts with her. Is like, I've got a boat. And then the doctor is like, hey, there's something funky going on in 1940 or
42, right?
42 in
Yeah,
1942. There's like some kind of like what does he call it, a time hump or something? He's like, we can't get over this time hump in 1942. There's something at these latitude longitude that's like messing everything up. And he's like, oh, I've got a boat. You know about the weird thing in the ocean? Cool, let's go. Here's a gun. You're coming whether you want to or not. And then they go to the boat. They meet an old woman. The old woman then reveals herself to be Charley Pollard, aged 80 something or other. 84. So what did we think about this first episode and the things that it sets up before it sort of, I don't want to say goes off the rails, but just sort of resolves itself the way that it resolves? How did we feel about this first episode?
I kind of like, I think I liked the reveal, even though they completely undermine it later. But I like the episode out. I like Charley kind of like spitefully flirting with like the first person who notices her, just because she's like, I just broke up with the doctor, so you know. Yeah. But yeah, no, like the first episode, in my opinion, is pretty solid.
I think, Singapore is just it's a fun locale. Usually it's fun in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. It's fun, and it's just kind of, and I think they take advantage. We get some fun supporting actor roles. We have Indiana Jones's David Yip showing up as an inspector who tries to arrest them all. Who also plays Curly, who I never would have put that together if not for the bonus stuff that was included in this. Also, Scott, playing the receptionist at the hotel was an actress named Natalie Mendoza, an Australian actress who has a very memorable role in the Broadway musical Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark as Arachne.
Whoa.
Wow.
That
That's
is
cool.
terrifying.
So that's fun. I like the bit where the doctor's like pretending to be like, you know, when they get stopped by David Yip's inspector, he's like, "Oh, you botched. I've been after these guys I haven't trusted you since Casablanca, you harlot." And she's like, "Oh, I've been caught." You know, that kind of like sort of screwball comedy capering. I thought was pretty fun.
Yeah. Okay, so and I think part 1 is probably the best episode of the bunch, just because there's a lot of capering and there's a lot of like fun references to the Titanic, the movie, which I just think is like a silly thing to put into a Doctor Who story. But then we go to part 2. And the other thing that happens in part 1 is that Charlotte, not Ms. Pollard, the older lady, but Charley gets stuck in 1942 because they go back to she goes into she gets put into the TARDIS, and then the TARDIS like takes off because it thinks it's in danger. And then goes to 1942. And I couldn't why is there another Byron in 1942?
I think it's supposed to be either his father or his grandfather.
Oh. Okay.
But
played by
like
the same
it's
person?
the same actor, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so confusing. And that was actually a funny gag where like the doctor like jumps on the floor is like falling apart on the boat that they're on. And he like jumps up and down. See, it's okay over here. Wait, and then it collapses. That was pretty good. I like picturing that. So she's in 1942. He's in 2008. And is basically like running around with Miss Pollard, who he is not convinced is Charley, but she's slowly convincing him that she is. But she has no memory of being with him or the adventures, but then is getting like vague recollections over the course of the story. As they go along. I don't know, a lot of yada 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 going on.
There's a fun red herring though, now that I think about it, because back in 1942, Charley meets a young mariner who we immediately, the listener, understand to be a girl pretending to be a guy, Elizabeth Swann style, and and so as this is happening, Miss Pollard will be, wait a second, I remember now, I'm remembering adventures, and I'm like, oh, maybe it is Charley, but now I get it, because like she's remembering her memories, because spoilers, listeners, it is revealed that she is the girl pretending to be a sailor.
Madeline Fairweather.
And so I'm like, oh, that's how they explain how she's getting her memories back, because it's not Charley's memories, it's Fairweather's memories.
Right. So they're like searching through crates, and then like Cybermen show up, and you're like, oh no, this is a Cyberman story.
Yeah, that was, I know there's like there's a Cyberman on the cover art. And I was like, oh, Cyberman story. But, like, I'd forgotten. And then they, like, showed up again. And I was like, oh, Cyberman.
What were your thoughts on the Cyberman reveal, Nick? Because we all know you're not a fan.
It was so funny, because apparently Nicholas Briggs isn't either. Like, during his interview, that was hearing him be like, yeah, I mean, they're okay, but they're not the Daleks. But he's the voice of both of them. I admired, because like I guess the Joe premise is that they've been trapped for like decades under this ship, and so they're very derelict and decaying. And I was picturing them almost kind of like rusted and covered in sea moss or something. I couldn't bear the way they were performed in this. The way they kind of had that millennial ending every question, every statement on a question, like going up. It just was not fun to listen to.
Yeah. It's also like pretty slow the way they talk too, and I think talking slow just to end on an uplift is like it makes you crawl out of your skin after a while.
Yeah, I think in theory, because I also didn't understand why they like broke the story up on the actual like recording with like the first interview section, like in between the.
Oh, it's because it came on 2 CDs. So like,
okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like episode 1 and 2, and behind the scenes of those episodes on one CD,
I see.
and then
Okay.
the same on the other one.
That makes more sense. But because he was talking about his process with the sound engineering, and he was like, I kind of wanted to do like a 10th planet Cyberman voice, which is like really, really creepy. Like the first Doctor story,
Yeah,
where they're introduced. But then he's like, and then I wanted to put like the filter on it from like the invasion or whatever. But I think the two of them combined makes it. I like tuned out most of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's distracting in a way that I was like, I'm not processing any of this.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, so episode 3 continues along with the sort of like dual narrative of the 2 time periods. It really sucks that like in their last story together they're like separate for most of this, Charlie and the 8th Doctor.
Yeah.
Especially after the reveal at the end of the 3rd episode when you realize that like, oh, it's Madeline Fairweather, not Charlie. So like he hasn't been with Charlie this whole time, because you're almost forgiving it because you're like, well, he's with old Charlie, so like that's fun. And then we're gonna figure it out. It's like they're gonna be like, it's when she gets her memories back, it'll be like they're reunited, and like that'll be a nice capper to her era, and that'll be nice and fun and good. But then it's not her, so all of that is for naught. And so yeah, you get this rug pull of a reveal, and then you're like, well, why are we doing any of this then? And then it's like the Cybermen start turning a bunch of people into Cybermen in horrifying ways. And then Charlie ends up being the cyber leader, and that's how they're reunited. Is that she's become the cyber leader, and the Doctor is like, what? Though I like how he's like, oh wow, great idea. Like he's just like, hell yeah, yeah, do whatever you want. Yeah, this rules.
I'm really a cyber leader, and he's like, oh,
you're so great. I love you, Charlie.
Especially because this is from the writer of Storm Warning.
Yeah,
and so Charlie's in fine form. Like it's peak Charlie. She's kind of got that like kind of feisty, jokey vibe for a lot of it. And she's fun, but you kind of want her to be with the Doctor because the snippets of their back and forth we get in episode 1 are really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we sort of just like, we wrap the Cybermen stuff like wraps up really quickly. And then the Doctor's like, oh, I have to erase your memory. Look at this fob watch. I'm going to take away your memories. And she's like, no, not my memories. And then she doesn't remember anything, immediately remembers everything. And he's like, well, that didn't work. And then like, yeah, just like leaves. And then he's like, they all leave in the end. And then credits. And then she's on a beach. And then the TARDIS shows up and she's like, oh, you're back.
So Byron, one of the Byrons goes brain dead. He experiences brain death. I think that's Byron Sr.
Yeah.
Byron Jr. gets turned into a Cyberman. And then when the Cybermen are defeated and you're like, well, the adventure's over, Cyber Byron is like, oh, it's me, Cyber Byron. I've gone cyber. What do you reckon? And he's like, you're going to take me through time and you're going to get me my treasure. But then
he kills 84-year-old Madeline.
Yeah. His mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Okay. So then Charlie kills Cyber Byron, but the Doctor isn't there because and so then Charlie's like, oh, cool. Like I'm free. I kind of got out of danger. I'm going to cut my losses and not find the doctor and write him a letter.
Mm-hmm.
Then the doctor finds the letter in 2008 at the hotel, and it's like, hey man, we had some good runs, but like I'm supposed to be dead, so I'm just gonna take this as my cue and just kind of, pull a fucking like, Bruce Wayne at the end of Dark Knight Rises and just kind of like live in anonymity for the rest of my life.
And the doctor's like, how have you seen that movie?
What?
Also, how has anyone seen that movie? It's 2007.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, okay, I think I feel a little better about not understanding how everything wraps up because like the letter that the doctor finds in the hotel is from Charley at the beginning of the episode when she's still mad at him, but then they like make up sort of, and then she's like the ship, the cyber ship or whatever, like explodes or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh my god, did they kill Charley? And then like they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's just like stranded somewhere. And then
I think on a desert island, I think is where she is.
Okay.
And then the doctor shows up. The TARDIS shows up, but you don't know what doctor is in the TARDIS. Though there's a couple of dead giveaway hints.
Is it whose theme song is that? Is that 5?
It's 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the future, she has a 4, maybe 6 story arc or something with 6. And
that's fun.
Completely wraps up Charley, and it's really good. But yeah, thankfully this is not the end of Charley, just the end of Charley and the 8th Doctor. But yeah.
But then the doctor like thinks like he's mad because he finds the letter and he's just like, well, everyone leaves me, blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, you didn't learn anything from this. Is so dumb. Like,
yeah.
There was something kind of, and again, like listeners, she loses her memories for like 20 seconds, like maybe 45 seconds.
Yeah. She's like, wait, where am I? Who are you? What? Oh, wait, you're the doctor. Yes, the doctor. Time travel. The TARDIS. I remember everything. Like, it's literally like that. It's like a stream of consciousness like that.
And yet, even how quickly it was, there was something to me so unsettling about how easily 8 was like, oh, you dumb. Oh, don't remember anything, do you? Oh, I have a box that's bigger on the inside. I'm like, God, you love fucking, like, being above your companions.
Yeah.
Like, just switched so fast.
Yeah, it's so funny because you're right. I really like how this writer writes Charley, but I hate how he writes the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Yeah. But anyway, it's over now. They're all dead. We're gonna move on to a whole new crispy new era that I'm very excited to get into. But yeah, as the end of there's a very lackluster end to 12 stories that we covered of 8th Doctor and Charley. How we feeling, gang?
I don't know. Like, it's so frustrating, I think. Because 8 and Charley never see each other again, right? Sort of, maybe.
I think, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think they do. Unless it might be a thing where like after her visit with the 6th Doctor, maybe she runs into the 8th Doctor, a version of the 8th Doctor from before Storm Warning, and is like, "You're about to have a bunch of cool adventures," and he's like, "Whatever, man. See ya," or something. It might be something like that, but like I don't remember entirely. But I remember being satisfied by her ending when you actually get to it.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to revisit her down the line.
I guess as Scott said at the beginning of the episode, as kind of a big Charley stan throughout our time with her, I think the reason I ended this episode being like, oh, good for her, like this was fun, is like, I learned very quickly that it's not the end. That she has more adventures with 6 and maybe even other doctors. And I liked how she wasn't like so many companions before and after her. Her adventure didn't end with her being a casualty of the Doctor's adventures. She is actually it's sad to word it this way, but she's able to escape him and end her time with him on her terms and cheat death and end up on a deserted island and being like, and then like get to meet fucking Big Finish 6, which is like the best version of 6 she could have met. And and so I was like, oh, cool, good for her. I'm glad it wasn't her being like, like dissolving into nothingness, and Nate being like, oh no, oh, being me sucks.
Anyway, I need to go find a crispy new 20-year-old.
Yeah, I know. There's this hilarious bit because episode 1 ends with like, my name's Charley Pollard, and it's like, oh no, his greatest fear, having to like reconnect with a companion after she's old.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Oh man. So anyway, that's The Girl Who Never Was. We will see Charlie again. But next time we visit the Eighth Doctor, we're basically starting a brand new era of the Lucy Miller era. And Lucy Miller, I've long said, maybe my favorite companion of all time, certainly top 3.
Damn.
Wow. I love Lucy Miller. I love her. So very excited for you guys to get to know her. Though I will say, I think her first story, which is a Dalek story, is like, I don't remember it being like thrilling, but the cool thing about her is like, so her first story is like a 2-parter. So it kind of feels like, oh, okay, we're getting like a regular, like, it's 2 45-minute episodes, but it feels like, oh, okay. Like, I recognize this. This is like classic Who. But then after that, it's just like one shot 45-minute episodes. And it's so fun just going through like little adventure after little adventure after little adventure with these two. And it's just a very different vibe. And I'm excited to get through that with you guys, because I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun. And it'll be nice to have like a different vibe, a different flavor with our Big Finish stuff.
Yes.
We'll have the 6th and 7th Doctor, classic Who, Big Finish style, and then we're going to have this sort of like new Who style 8th Doctor stuff with the Lucy Miller stuff. So very excited to dig into that. And I think there's a lot of stuff in this that you guys are going to be surprised and delighted by. So
that's exciting.
Yes, very much looking forward to closing the book on them trying to turn the 8th Doctor into classic Who, and instead being like, actually, let's switch this up and change the vibe, because I think he fits this a little better.
Absolutely. But shout out to India Fisher, voice of Charley Pollard, as she says in the second batch of behind the scenes audio. She recorded her first lines for Charlie in 1999, and this episode came out in 2007. So, and went on to play Charlie for more years after that. So quite a tenure.
Definitely. So there you have it. The Girl Who Never Was. If you guys listened to this, awesome. If you didn't, because it's not available for free anywhere, I get it. And I don't know how much you're really missing at the end of the day. So anyway, there you go. We'll be back next week to talk about, what are we talking about next week? The Shakespeare Code. So
good old JK.
Fun. Yep. That's the first thing I always think of too.
Absolutely.
Oh no.
Is the reference to the last Harry Potter book. It's always the first thing that I think of when I think of that story.
Oh, wait till you get to book 7. I cried.
We didn't know. No one knew. Least of all David Tennant, who is an ally.
Of course,
would never have said something like that.
Of course.
Anyway, the Shakespeare Code next week. Bye, everybody.